All right, hello and good afternoon. My name is Kit Cabello, one of the co-founders of Veracity and Defiance, and I'm here sitting down with Tony Brasunas, a writer at the Huffington Post. Now, please tell us, how long have you been in the career of journalism?
So I've been, I would say I've been in journalism for 15 years, although it's been part-time most of that time. I started a political web magazine in 2002, which is called Garlic and Grass, and we covered politics from a progressive standpoint, and I edited that and wrote articles for that as well for about 5 years. Recently, what I've been working on, really what the Huffington Post gig happened when I was writing articles about this particular campaign, Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. A few articles I wrote individually on a blog site and then was published on Medium. Somebody at Huffington Post approached me and wanted to publish some of my pieces on their platform, and so they did, and so they ran several of my pieces. I've been writing pieces for them throughout this campaign, and then they gave me the ability to publish pieces on my own. That happened about a month ago, and so I published several pieces that way, and everything was going great. My pieces were very well received. Many of them had thousands of shares, thousands of likes. We're very popular on the Facebook groups and everywhere online and social media. Until the most recent piece that I wrote, not the one I wrote today, but the one that I wrote about 10 days ago.
Okay, now, obviously, this recent piece, please tell us what it detailed and follow through with why did it get taken down?
Well, I can't say specifically why because I don't know, but I'll tell you how it happened. I wrote a piece that was called The Deeper Reason Intelligent Progressives and Independents Are Unable to Support Hillary Clinton. And it's a provocative title. Admittedly, it's a provocative title, it's a provocative piece, but what I wanted to explain to people that are not necessarily directly in the Bernie Sanders movement, who may be Democrats or they may be sort of sitting on the sidelines, and they assume, oh, well, Bernie Sanders candidate supporters will certainly support Hillary Clinton because she's a Democrat, he's a Democrat, and if they go with Hillary Clinton, that'll all happen. They'll just transfer over and support Hillary Clinton. And I know from writing these articles, from the people that I talk to, and from the actual issues that Bernie espouses that are very different in many ways from Hillary Clinton, that that's not at all the case. In fact, there's a lot of evidence to believe that the opposite is true. And so I wanted to really explain to Democrats that these aren't just like young idealists who like don't know much about politics and liked Bernie Sanders, and now that it's Hillary Clinton, they'll just flip over. No, a lot of these people are very, very well informed, very intelligent voters, people that are more and better informed than a lot of the people that are supporting Hillary Clinton, and they realize that they're not going to be able to support Hillary Clinton because she's opposed to a lot of the issues that people are supporting Bernie Sanders for. Opposing the TPP, not because it's a bad trade deal, but because it's not even really a trade deal. It's a deal that allows corporations to overrule national governments around the world. That's a complete step backwards in the whole notion of that we can work for the environment, that we can work for labor standards. And the fact that Hillary supports that and Bernie is opposed to that, that's not just a small difference, that's a huge difference. And that's the case with a lot of issues.
Now, I think you know, as well as a few other people know as well, in fact, the majority of people know, that recently, yesterday, the emails were released in regards showing that the DNC was in cahoots with the Clinton campaign, as well as some key figures within the corporate media knew well about it too, as well as adjusting poll numbers. How do you feel about that as a journalist, and do you feel that maybe perhaps the establishment has it wrong and people won't fall in line to vote?
Yeah, I do think that. I mean, frankly, I've written pieces that were laying out the case that this was rigged by the DNC for Hillary Clinton from the beginning, just looking at some of the things, how the debates were scheduled, the whole money laundering thing around the money that was raised by the Central Committee and was funneled to Hillary Clinton. So for me, it was, and I think a lot of people that were reading articles that I was writing, it was more sort of confirmation about what was already out there. But for a lot of the people, I think, at this convention, these were sort of bombshells going off. Like, can you believe that the Democratic Party, can you believe that at the very top, these people were basically saying, let's make sure we get Bernie on record being an atheist or being a Jew because that'll make him look bad. Right. Let's make sure, these kinds of things happen. This story should be sold to this particular CNN or this particular media outlet, shows direct collusion, I think is a fair word, between the Democratic Party, the Democratic National Committee, and the Hillary campaign. And so people feel like the basic fairness of this primary is called into question in a very deep way. And that's something that makes, I think, people that even that were maybe supporting Bernie but were kind of maybe going to be able to kind of vote for Hillary now are like, how can I even switch to Hillary at all? Because then I'm rubber stamping fundamentally non-democratic process.
Let's add another thing to this equation.
Yeah.
Obviously, Hillary Clinton, in some recent polls, is losing to Donald Trump. And obviously, with this email being leaked out, do you feel that the media perhaps overlooks the fact that Clinton has the capability of not able to hold up a good defense against Donald Trump, as he can hit her with rigged primaries, rigged elections, as well as taking money from Wall Street? In your research as a news reporter, have you noticed anything in regards to data saying Clinton can lose this and she can lose it bad?
Yes, the piece that I published today and that I also have been sharing with some other journalists is an analysis of the approval rating numbers of all of the presidential candidates over the last, since 1980. So let's call that the modern presidential political era. That's 36 years. And in all of those races, the candidate who has won the national election has always had a positive approval rating. Every time. It's amazing, right? So you look at this chart, and you see who has a positive approval rating. Hillary and Donald Trump are the two of the three least liked candidates in modern presidential politics. The only other one that is at -16. So Hillary's at -16 approval. Donald Trump is at -15. He just pulled ahead of her by a fraction. George W. Bush, in his second term when he was running against Bill Clinton, that's the only other person that was at that level. He was at -16, which is the same at Clinton. Were huge losers in the national election. Versus you look at on the other side, the most widely approved candidates going into the election, the three most widely, the highest favorability ratings were Obama in 2008. He was very popular. Bill Clinton, the second time, was very popular, and Bernie Sanders. So these three candidates all have positive approval ratings in the positive teens. I think Bernie's at +14, Obama was at +14, I think Clinton was at +15. So you look at the completely right, +15, -15. Every other candidate, Bush, Gore, Dukakis, Mondale, you name it, Kerry, they're all in somewhere closer to zero. And the ones that were under zero lost. The ones that were over zero won. So these numbers don't lie. Bernie Sanders would clearly defeat either Hillary or Trump in a general election. You're not going to have Bernie versus Hillary, obviously, in a national election because they're running for the same nomination. But Bernie would absolutely defeat Trump. There's no other way to look at it. The numbers have been saying that for months.
He's been beating her in double-digit numbers.
Double-digit numbers is exactly right. Versus Hillary and Trump, that's a chancy thing. That's a flip of a coin. They're at basically the same really, really awful negative numbers. What I mentioned in my post today is that, it seems like people are able to sort of trot out scandals about Hillary at will, right? I mean, there was a Guccifer 2 leak a couple of weeks ago. There was this one. So let's say they're running neck and neck in October, and then a scandal comes out, or another leak against Hillary. Suddenly suddenly Trump is probably up 5 to 10 points, and that determines the election. So the point of my article is, looking at all of this, I'm asking the DNC, do you want to take this chance? Is this really a chance you want to take, putting Hillary against Trump? It's a flip of a coin.
Through all your research and through all your analysis, and as a journalist, do you believe that the DNC will be arrogant enough to still gamble with Hillary Clinton, or with everything that's come out, you think common sense will affect the superdelegates as well as the regular delegates as well as saying, yes, we need to get Bernie Sanders because we can lose this and we can lose it bad?
Well, what I say in my article and what I believe is that while it's a long shot, and some would even say it's blasphemy against the sort of received political order, if the DNC has the courage and the circumspection right now, yes, absolutely they can and should switch to Bernie Sanders. Do I think they will? I don't have a crystal ball. Looking at what I've looked at of the Democratic Party over the last 30 years, I'd say I wouldn't put my money on it, unfortunately. But that isn't to say that they can't. That isn't to say that the pressure of all of the Bernie delegates, there's 5,000 delegates on the floor, of which 2,000 or so are for Bernie. So that's, and may even be more than that. So we're getting very close to half the delegates. And then a lot of the Hillary delegates, from what I've heard, don't feel as strongly as the Bernie delegates. The Bernie delegates, many of them showed up, and they are rock solid. A lot of the Hillary delegates, those are town council people that ran because, they get to go to Philadelphia. That's kind of fun. They're not necessarily like, go Hillary. I'm a Democratic person on my city council, and I think going to Philadelphia would be fun. So those people... Now, I'm not on the floor of the convention to talk to them, but those people could be people that could say, look, I'm better off if the Democrats win in November. My party is better off, my country is better off, the planet has a better future. So I'm going to cast my vote for Bernie Sanders right now, and then I think we'll win. That could happen. I believe that could happen.
Now, as you push forward with your career in journalism and, you hopefully write more articles, we would definitely want to see more of your writing. Are you concerned that perhaps with the corporate media as well as all the media being connected together that maybe some of your articles might be taken down again? I mean, we obviously have the First Amendment, freedom of speech, and the idea of journalism is to hold government, corporations, and all figures of authority in a light so the American public are informed of what they're doing and what they're trying to do to our democracy so that we, in turn, can voice our opinion whether we approve it or not. Do you think that's going to happen to you again, and you think that's going to happen to other journalists as well?
Unfortunately, I do, and having seen just what's happened in the last 10 days or so with the Huffington Post, I don't want to jump to conclusions prematurely, but I will say that I would like for my emails to be returned. I need to reach out to a few other people at Huffington Post to get a better explanation for what's going on. But I have reached out. I haven't received a response. I haven't received notification. So the sense that I have is that net neutrality is very important moving forward. I do have concern that if we go, I have concern as a journalist that a Hillary Clinton presidency and possibly a Donald Trump presidency may not value net neutrality in the way that Obama has to some extent, but he's allowed the FCC to, as I assume you followed this, has allowed the FCC to regulate the internet like a utility. And what that does is that assures net neutrality so that sites like my political magazine that is currently dormant, but that I edited for many years, and I assume the site here, are able to show up in other people's inboxes and on other people's, on their streaming internet with the same preference, the same priority, the same speed that a CNN or that a Huffington Post would. I am concerned that could be in jeopardy. So I think this is an important battle, not just for the issues, but for some of the meta issues that you're talking about, which is not just are we going to be able to deal with climate change, are we going to be able to deal with these bad trade deals that aren't even trade deals, but are we even be able to talk about them? Are we even going to have a democracy and a free media where we can talk about these in a way that everyone gets to hear those issues? Yeah, I'm very concerned about that.
All right. Well, and lastly, obviously corporate media as well as newspapers and television journalism, it's been drawn to attention that maybe we can't trust it anymore. Perhaps it's too in league with the establishment. Is there room for evolution for independent media to take up that notch? Because more and more people aren't tuning in and watching cable TV. It's an older demographic. So do you think that there is potential for independent media to evolve?
Yeah, I mean, literally, I saw a study that was the average age of Fox viewers, the average age of CNN viewers, and all of them were in I think their upper 50s or their 60s, even I think Fox was in their late 60s, maybe that was CNN, I don't remember the specifics, but the point was all these networks, the average age of their followers, my tweet was that support and belief in the corporate media is literally dying off. As we see the next generation, there's this sense that I see it on CNN, I see it on Facebook, I see it on garlicandgrass.org. I don't know that any of it's true. I have to take responsibility in my own brain, with my own friend network, with the people that I've grown to trust what is actually true. And that's a revolution, right? That's a revolution in perceiving reality. Because if you just take whatever CNN says, you just take what Fox News says, that's the analogy is the Matrix, right? Which is a sort of a cliched comparison, but that you're not necessarily believing your own news, you're not necessarily taking responsibility for your own media consumption. And I think one of the big reasons that Bernie Sanders has gotten to where he's gotten is because of this already happening. It's already true that people are going to social media to find news more than to CNN, more than to NPR, more than even, the New York Times has this big, its name in lights, but the New York Times was proven to be ridiculously biased, even editing some of their pieces to make them slanted against Bernie Sanders. That's been proven. Their editorial review board came out with an article basically acknowledging this. So, yeah, I think this is already happening, and I think it needs to continue, it needs to accelerate, and I think it will.
Thank you so much for your time, Tony Brasunas. All right, I'm Kit Cabello from Veracity and Defiance. Please follow us, and also please follow Tony Brasunas on his social links, as well as his writings on Huffington Post. We'll follow through more later on as we cover this Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia. Peace.